Continuing on, looking at inside the cell. So once we get inside the cell membrane, here are some parts of the cell that we need to talk about. We talked about already the cytoplasm, that watery type of substance. Inside that cytoplasm, there's going to be a framework of proteins basically that are going to give that shell some shape and some support. We call that the cytoskeleton. Kind of hard to see with a compound light microscope. If you had a more powerful one, you might be able to see some of those cytoskeleton parts, but it's just going to provide it some shape. Inside this cytoplasm, there are going to be small structures that each one of them is inside of like a little envelope or a little membrane. Okay, they're membrane bound structures, and each one of them are going to carry out a specific cellular job or cellular process. We call these little structures organelles. Kind of like you have organs in your body. These are kind of baby or miniature organs, so we call them organelles. First organelle is one of the most important, and it's called the nucleus. The nucleus is the control center. It's in charge of making sure that all the cell's activities get accomplished. It directs and controls every bit of the cell's activities, and it does so by sending out information found in the nucleus's DNA. And that DNA is found inside the nucleus, and it's found specifically on structures called chromosomes. And your DNA is your instructions. It's the information that your cells use to perform their jobs, and it's also the information that the nucleus sends out to each of the cell parts, tells them what to do, when to do it, how much to do it, when to stop, and so forth. The DNA that you have, which I mentioned is found on the chromosomes that you have, you get a portion of that DNA from each of your parents. Uh, and some of that DNA is going to give you your eye color or your height, some of those specific things about you. But you get a set of those. You get a set of those from each parent. That nucleus then is going to be what drives everything in that cell. In plant cells, we have a special nucleus called a chloroplast. A chloroplast is a green organelle that is responsible for capturing sunlight. So when sunlight hits a chloroplast, it's going to cause a chain reaction to occur, and it's going to take the carbon dioxide that plant has brought in there. Usually this happens in the leaves of the plant. There are other parts, but mostly in the leaves. That carbon dioxide is going to combine with water, and that chloroplast is going to change those ingredients into glucose. Glucose, we're just going to call it food. Okay, it's a simple food. It's actually a sugar type. Okay, a lot of times in science, when you find words that end in ose, O-S-E, you're talking about some kind of a sugar. And so it's the chloroplast that's making food for the cell. And this happens only in plant cells because animal cells do not have chloroplasts. Another organelle found inside the nucleus, or excuse me, found inside the cytoplasm, is called the mitochondria. Mitochondria is sometimes called the powerhouse of the cell. This is what makes energy. It's what turns the food that has been made or the food that has been eaten by that organism or food that has been taken into that cell. It gets combined with oxygen and a chemical process occurs, and it turns that food into energy. All the parts of your cell need energy in order to do their job. And so it is this energy, the mitochondria, is what makes that energy for those cells to use for their processes. Now, some cells in your body have more mitochondria than others. For example, your muscle cells are probably going to have more mitochondria than some of the other types of cells in your body, simply because they need more energy to do their job. Ribosomes. Ribosomes are responsible for making proteins for the cell. Proteins are what actually gets the work done. It's the chemical that makes things happen. It also provides the building blocks for all the things that are going to happen in that cell. Okay, as the second bullet point says, proteins are used in nearly every cell activity. They're building blocks, they're instructions, they're used to cause things to happen, and they're pretty important. Sometimes ribosomes just kind of float around in the cytoplasm. Sometimes they're attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, the ribosomes make proteins because they make proteins based on what kinds of information they get from the DNA. The DNA tells them what kind of proteins to make and then what to do with them.